Hi, I'm Sandy Peterson, and we are at last going to talk about the long-awaited Windwalker faction. Okay, Windwalker starts on one of two places on the map. He can begin with a gate and 6 cultists either in the Arctic Ocean or in Antarctica, his choice. So that's kind of a unique ability of his. So, the faction ability is called Hibernate, and what it is that whenever they want in the game, they can say, I'm going to hibernate now. This is an action that costs 0, and then they take no more actions for the rest of that action phase. They're done, as if they were down to 0 power. At the moment they hibernate, they gain power equal to the number of enemy Great Old Ones on the map. So for example, if there was 2 enemy Great Old Ones, and you are at 4, you'd move up 2 spaces to 6, then you'd hibernate. My sons like to put your marker on the side to indicate that you're hibernating so you don't forget, but I don't think you forget anyway. So, now the advantage of hibernating is that when the next gather power phase begins, you start with this power added on to yours. It doesn't drop to 0. So you begin at 6, then you add on whatever power you earned that phase. So you can potentially have a lot of power in a turn. It kind of goes in pulses every other turn because you usually have a big turn and then you hibernate again for the next big turn. So Wendigo has 16 units. They have 6 cultists like everyone. Their color is a little off-white. You can see the cultists there. They have 4 Wendigos. The Wendigos have a nominal cost of 1 and a combat power of 1. They also have 4 Nafkes. These are their powerhouses. The Nafkes combat is 3, which is really good, and their cost is equal to the number of Nafkes you have in your pool off the map. So for example, the first Nafke you build costs 4 because there's 4 in your pool. But the second Nafke only costs 3 because now there's 3 in your pool, and so forth down. So when you're building your last Nafke, it only costs 1. And then if it's lost, it only is 1.3 build. And since they're a 3-point monster, that's pretty good. In effect, you pay a total of 10 power for all 4 Nafkes, which are 3-point monsters, so they're actually a pretty good bargain. Next we have Ron-Tagoth. Ron-Tagoth is a Great Old One. To summon Ron-Tagoth, all you have to do is pay his cost, which is 6, and place him either in the Arctic Ocean or the Antarctic. And it doesn't have to have a gate or anything, you just like plop him down there. So, remember I mentioned earlier that you can choose whether you want to start in the Arctic or Antarctic? Well, say you start in the Arctic. Well, you can still summon Ron-Tagoth in the Antarctic. He has 2 choices. Even if there's enemy units there or any other thing, you just pay your 6 and plop him down. That's Ron-Tagoth. Ron-Tagoth has the special ability of Eternal. What this means is that if he is pained or killed in combat, you may immediately spend 1 power to cancel that pain or kill, so he's hard to get rid of. One of the reasons that you actually hibernate is to have a little store of power that you can use to negate effects on Ron-Tagoth. Of course, you can choose to accept the pain or the kill, you just don't have to. His leading Great Old One is Ithaca. Ithaca also costs 6, just like Ron-Tagoth. Now, to summon Ithaca, there's some requirements. First, Ron-Tagoth must have been summoned at least once. He doesn't have to still be in play, but you must have summoned him. And you can tell if you've summoned him, because if you've done it, you've got the spellbook for Awakening Ron-Tagoth, so you know you summoned him. In case your memory is really short or you have a long break between games. The second requirement is there has to be a gate on the area where you're summoning them, and it has to be, again, in the Arctic or Antarctic, just like with Ron-Tagoth. But this time you have to have a gate. When you summon Ithaca, you pay your 6, you place him, and the gate dies. It goes away. Even if it's not your gate with someone else's cultist on it, the gate's destroyed. Now, if there is a cultist on it, the cultist isn't killed, he just, like, the gate just vanishes out from under him, and then you have Ithaca, yay! And you can start making your move. For various reasons, Ithaca is not usually seen early in the game. One of the most relevant reasons, incidentally, sorry to skip this, Ron-Tagoth rolls 3 combat dice. It doesn't seem like very many for a Great Old One, but when you recall that he can't be killed or pained if you don't want him to be, it's kind of bad. Now, Ithaca's combat dice are equal to half the doom points of your opponent. So early in the game, he typically doesn't have that much combat power, but you can't summon him early anyway, since you have to have Ron-Tagoth first, and then you have to have a gate you're willing to destroy. So he's usually a late game Great Old One, and so if your enemy has like 19 doom points, then Ithaca has rolls 10 dice in battle against him, which is good. This last unit here on the corner, this is not actually a unit, it's more of a marker. This is his Ice Age marker, and we'll get into that in a second. Okay, how you get your spellbooks for the Windwalker. First, there is, let's get this out here. Is that visible? Let's pause it and make that visible. Okay, he gets a spellbook for Awakening Ron Tagoth. I mean, everyone gets spellbooks for Awakening the Great Old One. That's one of his Great Old Ones. That gets him a spellbook. He also gets a spellbook if there is a gate in the other area. For example, if he started in the Arctic Ocean, then he gets a spellbook when there's a gate in Antarctica, and if he started in Antarctica, he gets a spellbook when there's a gate in the Arctic Ocean. He doesn't have to build the gate. It just has to be built by someone. So usually when he's in the game, no one wants to go build gates there because they don't want to help Ithaca. So because of that, what Windwalker usually has to do is, from his starting location, he has to march south or north to the other area and build his own damn gate. Okay, so next, he gets a spellbook if he is the starting player. He doesn't have a lot of ways of gaining power, so usually the way he does this is by having a particularly large hibernate the turn before, and then use that extra power boost to put him up and become first player. He's a late game bloomer. One of the best ways of exemplifying this is that his next spellbook, he gets it when another faction has 6 spellbooks. So he can never be the first person to get 6 spellbooks. He's got to wait for someone else to get it, and then he gets that spellbook. Occasionally you'll see people hold off getting their 6th spellbook to delay Windwalker getting a spellbook, but usually people are too greedy and they want to get their spellbook, so it's not that much of a deal. He has a really interesting spellbook, which is he can take this spellbook at any time. You just put it and plop it on the map. However, for each enemy player who currently has 6 spellbooks, he gets an Elder Sign. So if he waits on getting that until 2 players have 6 spellbooks, he'll get 2 Elder Signs when he places that spellbook. So that's a good thing to, if you can afford to wait, it's good. But if you really need the spellbook early, you can just get it and not get any Elder Signs. You just like plop it down at the start of the game if you want. The final spellbook is for Awakening Ithaca, because you always get one for Awakening your Great Old Ones, and that's one of them. Again, that's usually kind of not an early game one, because to awaken Ithaca you have to destroy a gate, and you have to have Ron Tagoth, and you have to you want to have a reasonable amount of combat power, so you want to wait till the other guys have a few doom points. So he's a later game unit. Okay, let's talk about the specific spellbooks he has available. Alright, so this one, Herald of the Outer Gods. What this does is you pay only 5 power for your Ritual of Annihilation regardless of the position of the ritual marker. So this is, again, another example of the late game powers of Ithaca, because early on, who cares, because the those rituals only cost 5 or 6 anyway. But in the late game, you can save quite a bit of power, and you can essentially do a ritual every turn fairly inexpensively, because it only costs 5. Woohoo! So that's what that's for. Okay. Next, he has the Cannibalism ability. If there's a battle and one or more enemy units are killed in the battle, he can spawn either a cultist or a Wendigo in the area. Just one, no matter how many guys are killed. That's how it is. Okay, now we're going to show an example. If we can tilt the camera down to the area. Here is a mighty battle. So we got some monsters here. We're going to fight them with Ithaca's guys. Hope you can tell the evil gray monsters are the bad guys. And we got a star vampire here, and looks like a dimensional shambler, another star vampire. So we're fighting Ithaca here. So this spellbook is called Howl. And if you have any Wendigos in an area, before the battle, the enemy, before you roll dice, the enemy has to retreat one of his guys out of the area to where he wants to go. So in this case, he would probably retreat the Dimensional Shambler, but he might retreat a Star Vampire if he thought they were going to be killed. So before battle, the enemy says, I'm going to retreat the Star Vampire. He retreats into Europe or wherever, and then you go on with the battle. Even if I had more Wendigos, I could still only get him to retreat one person. And then, of course, when the battle happens, if you one of your units is killed, and you, say you kill the Dimensional Shambler, and he kills one of your guys, so you kill your Wendigo. Well, if you have the Cannibalism ability, you can immediately respawn that Wendigo because you spawn a unit whenever you have a guy killed in battle, so that's kind of cool. Okay, next, the Nafkez special ability. Their ability is that for each Nafka killed in a battle, the enemy must kill one additional unit. So, now Nafkaz early in the game are expensive, so it's not such a useful ability, but late in the game, when Nafkaz are only 1 or 2 points, it can be very valuable. For example, say that you were in this fight here, and you killed, you rolled 0 kills on the enemy, and they rolled 1 kill on you. So you could say, well, I think I will kill this Nafka for my death, and that means you get an extra kill, and so he kills a Star Vampire or whatever. And then, because you killed a person, you Cannibalism, so you spawn a Wendigo to replace your Nafka. The next turn you summon your Nafka, and it's all good. So that's an example of how these things can chain together. If you are trying to kill someone really important, like, say, Hastur, you can kill off several Nafkas, assuming you receive that many kills, in order to take out the enemy god. Well, maybe Hastur is a bad example, but Nyarlathotep, say. Okay, there's actually no specific spellbook for Ron Tagath. We think it's cool enough that he can't be killed, that you can summon him super easily and early, and that he's necessary to get Windwalker out. Windwalker, however, does have a pretty neat special ability. And what it is, it's called Arctic Wind. When Ithaquah moves, you can move any or all friendly units with him. So for example, Ithaquah can move from here to the North Atlantic. He can take all these guys along with him. Or he can choose to leave one behind because he wants to leave one behind. So in the late game, what usually happens is Ithaquah has this big army of destruction, several Nafkaz, cultists, often Ron Tagath is on the team with him, and he moves around destroying enemies at areas, capturing the gates, and then moves on, leaving behind a cultist on the gate. Speaking of which, I'm now going to make reference to Ithaquah's unique ability, which I didn't reference earlier, but that's okay because this is a good time to mention it. It's called Ferox. When Ithaquah's in play, your cultists can't be captured by enemy monsters. They can only be captured by Great Old Ones. What this means is that when you leave your little stream of cultists behind on the gates, they can't be captured. Well, I mean, that's what I just said, right? That means that you can kind of safely leave them alone, unlike everyone else's cultists. So, to get rid of your cultists, they have to actually go and fight you, which is a pain. Alright, finally, we have the Ice Age ability. This helps pin down and immobilize your enemies in preparation to be destroyed by you as Ithaquah. And what it does is, it's an action. You pay 1 power, and you place the Ice Age anywhere on the map. Okay, any actions that are taken affecting that area cost that player an extra point of power. So for example, if he wants to declare combat on you here, instead of costing 1, it costs 2. If he wants to move a unit from here into here to join the combat, instead of costing 1, it costs 2. All actions that affect that area cost more. So even actions that would normally cost 0, now they cost 1 because of the Dread Ice Age. So you can use that to really kind of hamper a person. If he summons a cultist, it costs him an extra point. If he summons a monster, it's just a pain to have Ice Age there. So the Ice Age can be used in 2 ways. One, to hinder a person from doing things in general. Another is to sort of get people out of the area that you're moving to so that you can get there safely and they can't really defend or fight over it. If you have an Ice Age in an area where they have units and they're leaving the area, technically that doesn't affect the area they're in, it affects where they go to, so it doesn't cost them extra power to move out, only to move in or to avatar there or stuff like that.
What if you move multiple units into the Ice Age area? So
if you move multiple units in the Ice Age area, it costs +1 total. So if I move 3 guys in, it would cost me 4 instead of, not 6, because it's 1 action, so it's 1 extra move. So you can kind of bull your way through Ice Age with enough power, but there's the Ice Age tax that makes things sucky, so that's how that works. Okay, That is Ithaqua, a late-game powerhouse with his huge army of doom. He's the only guy that can really stand up to Cthulhu's wrecking crew when he gets his big army together and goes around doing things. And what he tends to do in the game is have one really big turn in a late game where he takes his army, moves across the map, capturing a whole bunch of gates, and he has like 5 or 6 gates all at once. And then he has one huge scoring turn, and then either that wins him the game or else, you know, it doesn't. But that's sort of his play. Okay, thank you for listening to me. And now I hope you know a little bit more about the Windwalker.